There we go.
Sharing.
Top secret.
Hopefully I'm going to be sharing the right screen.
Yep.
It's okay.
There you
All
go.
right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Thank you for that. Whoever said that. Okay, welcome. Welcome to the fall 2023 Virtual Operations and Supply Chain Management Student Night. We are so thrilled to have you. And I am your moderator, Karen Visda. I'm here to tell you that supply chain touches every one of you, as I mentioned earlier while we were being introduced. I've worked at the Manning School of Business at the University of Lowell as a senior adjunct for 15 years after a long career in business. And I'm currently the ASCM, or APICS, formally, Massachusetts Minuteman Board of Directors Activities Director and liaison for some of the colleges. Now, let's see if I can advance this slide. Here we go. This is a joint meeting between ASCM's Massachusetts Minuteman and Northern New England and New Haven chapters, as well as the American Society for Quality, ASQ, New Haven chapter. Companies represented by our speakers this evening are Excelis Technologies, Boston Insights, Medtronics, Pratt & Whitney, and Zoll Medical. And we are so thrilled to have these speakers volunteering their precious time to meet with you this evening. Schools being represented this evening are Baruch College, LaSalle University, Merrimack College, Northeastern University, Quinnipiac University, Salem State University, UMass Boston, Dartmouth, and Lowell, University of New Haven, and Worcester Polytech Institute. Again, welcome to all of you. I don't know if we have some of the schools representative yet at this moment, but we are so thrilled to have you with us this evening. So that is my share. And I'm going to make my screen big again. Close this chat. So once again, I want to thank everyone for, in advance, for attending our semi-annual student night this evening. We're looking forward to connecting with as many students as possible face-to-face this evening. Face-to-face is critically important because you will not get credit for attending this evening if you don't leave your videos turned on and if you don't participate. So hopefully you brought some questions with you, or please be thinking of questions you want to ask, because there's going to be a prize for chosen for all of you who leave your video screens on, and a second prize chosen for those who have asked the most questions. Once you get past 2 or 3 questions, then your name goes in the hat. So you will be chosen for that second prize. And the prizes are 2 25 Amazon gift cards that we'll raffle off at the end of the meeting. So immediately after our presenters present, we'll get into the prizes. After that, we'll shut the video, the recording off, and we will continue to network, because as we're networking this evening, you might decide to stay on and speak to some of the presenters a little bit longer. And the goal is to be remembered. Get your faces right up and out there and show an interest, because these people are totally dedicated and incredibly interested in you. All right. With no further ado, I would like to start by asking our chapter president, Ken Glasser, who you've met already, to introduce our fellow collaborative chapter presidents, if any of them are on with us this evening, and any of our professors. I don't know if any of our professors have joined us, but you would probably know Ken. Have you seen any chapter presidents or professors join in, Ken? Ken, can you hear me?
And
Sorry,
yeah, got
I was
muted.
I was muted. Yeah, yeah. So I haven't scrolled all of the names, so I'm not sure which we have for professors, but we do have a few presidents. So what I'm going to do is I'll quickly walk through the calendar and our stuff, and then I will introduce each of the presidents or the president's reps so they can say their stuff too, and then we'll kick it back to you at that point. So the first thing I want to do is I think I'm sharing screen. Am I showing you the calendar?
Yes, you are.
Okay, great. So this is we do virtual combined meetings with us and the New Haven chapter, as well as ASQ New Haven and Northern New England and Western Mass. And the next one we have coming up. Now, this is a great meeting, Negotiation Pitfalls, Challenges, Strategies, and Skills with Moshe Cohen. It's a negotiations, how to negotiate and be good at it, and the pitfalls that you might hit along the way. So if you have to buy a car, or you want to negotiate a streaming subscription or whatever, this is a great session and it's free. So it's Wednesday, November 8th, same time. You can sign up for free. Just join out, check our website out. I'll show you that in a sec. And then we have holiday trivia on December 6th, and it's related to supply chain, but it'll be a lot of fun. And we'll be giving out some prizes for that too. January, we'll be talking about Apex ASCM certifications and things within that arena, because certifications will help you get a job. I remember when I was looking for a job and having the initials after your name, CPIM, CPM, the HR departments would pull all of those off to the side and say, all right, this person's certified, this person's certified. You put it right up next to your name. You get a quicker look at, as opposed to someone who just doesn't have any certifications. Let's see. Well, there's also going to be an MIT Operations Research Night, which is in person at MIT Cambridge in January. So that's always a lot of fun. They have all the graduate students presenting their theses, if you want to call it, on video. So they're given a challenge. How do you do this in Ecuador? How do you do this in, from whatever country they're from? And they create a whole supply chain on TV, 70-inch screens, their cases and theses, if you want to call it such. It's really entertaining. And then at the end, you vote for who the winner is. It's catered. They serve food and drinks and all kinds of neat stuff. So that's January 24th, probably, TBD.
Can I think that the students have that to look forward to after they graduate and they get their first job?
Yeah, well, they can go. I think they can attend to watch, in case they're looking for ideas on their own. This is not to compete. This is for people to watch the MIT grad students. So
last year, students from other schools were not allowed.
Ah, good to know. Good to know. All right, sorry, ignore that one. And then we have another student night in February, and that will deal with career positions. So. And
totally
finding a
different subject matter than you get tonight.
Yep, finding a job, and we'll talk about resumes and things like that. So that'll be fun. In March, we have leadership versus management, and Mike Ford is a very energetic speaker, so you will like him. And then April, Larry's going to tell us sooner that hopefully who the quality speaker is for April. And in May, reading body language, in person and electronically on Zoom. So we have a bunch of good stuff set up. I also wanted to show you one other thing. Second, right here. So we also have classes that we do for certification. We do them, New Haven does them. Wherever you're near, take a class. It's on CPIM and CSCP. We also may have a technology cert that we're working on, that's coming up soon. So I'll put the link in the chat window so you guys can see that as well. And one more thing to share with you, and then we will be done. And then I'll turn you over to Beverly and Pervez in 1 second. Let's see, share. And all right. Let's see. I'm gonna flip to here. If you're looking for this recording tonight, we're gonna put it on this page. I don't know if you can see it or not. It says past presentations at the top.
Yep.
And if that's showing, that's it. So we put all the past presentations we've done, the recording and the PPTs. Now the PPTs from tonight won't be there because it's more informal tonight, but the recording will be. We'll put that up here, and I'll put that link in the chat window tonight as well. The other thing to remember is at the end, I was telling people in the networking portion, we have a cert that you can print, which I'll have a link to show you, Professor, you were here. And we also have a link to the survey, so I'll put all those links at the end to make sure you're here. And we also track Zoom tracks as well, how many minutes each person was on the call, their name, and how many minutes they were on this call. So just an FYI, professor will probably be asking. So FYI, that's it. Now I want to turn it over to, let's start with Beverly. You're covering for Olivia tonight. So Beverly Fernandez from the New Haven, Connecticut chapter. Jump in, my friend.
Hello, good evening, everyone. We're just going to be making an announcement that we're offering classes on all subjects this fall. So if you're interested, please message me on the Zoom chat and we'll provide more details. So remember, if you want to get certified, join one of these classes from the New Haven chapter. Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly. Awesome. And Pervez, do you have anything else to add from New Haven from your end of things?
No, we just, since we do joint meetings and the whole, calendar is the same as you have mentioned earlier. So, and we participate, we plan, we have monthly meeting with Ken and the groups. And then I think we are through to 2025, next 2 years, we have planned different topics and all that. So, which is great. So,
yeah, we are planning way out there. I like it. Good
Thank
stuff.
you, Ken. Thank you, Beverly. Thank you, Pervez.
A
And I
couple
believe
more
we still need to
presidents.
yep.
hear from Art.
Yeah, a couple more presidents, Karen, real quick.
Sure.
Yeah. So Larry, anything from ASQ New Haven, my friend? Sounds like not. So we will pass Larry. I can see his laundry bucket, but I don't see Larry. So we'll pass Larry. And is anyone from Northern New England chapter on the line? Paul Moriarty? Nope.
Oh,
All right.
Larry's back.
Larry, you missed. So you only have 30 seconds. What's new from ASQ? Go ahead.
You are muted, Larry.
Yeah, you're muted, Larry.
Larry's never muted. That's a bad thing.
Hear me now?
There
Yeah.
we are.
Yeah, it was not much. Bill and Frank working issues. Looking to try to see if we can have a speaker on solar energy in April. That's our big thing. Not much more. Most of the guys are all old now. So nobody, and all retired. I'm the only one that's working. So it'd be interesting to see whether or not they want to persist in a viable state. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully, cross my fingers, and we'll still be around.
Awesome. Any more, Ken?
Ken, you are muted.
Oops. Yeah, I keep doing that just to keep the background noise down. But yes, thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate it. Back to you, Karen.
All right, and we have Art sharing about ENR and programs announcements this evening? Art Harvey?
Karen, I'm not sure I know what you're asking for because I didn't prepare anything for this. I'm just here to support my wonderful supervisor.
Well, we're happy that you are a co-director of ENR for our chapter, Massachusetts Minuteman. And ENR, for everyone out there, stands for Education and Research. And Art Harvey is also a commodity specialist at Zoll Medical. And if you could tell us a little about the offerings that we have in our ENR program, that was all I was looking for, Art.
Oh, okay. Well, we have a bunch of different classes going on right now. There's one that's an in-house class at Zoll that we're doing on a hybrid basis for our employees. There's a couple that are going on in the North Shore area that are virtual and open. They're already filled and started. And the first one that you see on the screen right now that Ken is showing is the CPIM. That is it's one of the I guess you would call it the foundation class for everybody. CSCP is a little bit higher up the ladder for those that are in middle management that want to take more, get some more additional, but it's good for the local practitioner as well. If you're not interested in supply chain from the inventory or management point of view, there's the CLTD, which is a logistics, transportation, and distribution. It's great for people that want to learn all the ins and outs of how to manage a warehouse operation. And there are some other ones I don't think we're offering right now, but there's some different classes that could be offered if we have enough interest.
Yep. And the classes we are going to have, we'll have another class either in CSCP or CPIM starting up in probably January. And again, certifications are critical. Once you have letters after your name, it's almost like an accountant that has CPA. You can have supply chain, CPIM, or CSCP. So it will make your resume stand out when HR is going through all of the entries for your people who are applying for jobs. So keep that in the back of your mind. Thank
Mhm.
you.
Yes, and if you're out there working in the supply chain industry, your companies will probably pay for it. Pay for you to
Thank you,
get
Karen.
these certifications. They'll be begging you to get these certifications. They want you to know the latest state-of-the-art information in your field. And that is the way you get that. No matter what career path any of you take, whether it's the supply chain or not, there is always a society, an organization, or something that you should belong to where you would network in your field, because you never know when you're going to be looking for a job again, reinventing yourselves again. So pay attention to your career organizations and be active in them. Get on the boards of directors. Get these things on your resume. They're wonderful things. At our next student night, we will have a guest speaker who will specifically be talking to certifications. And she has so many of them that it doesn't matter. I mean, she keeps trying to retire, but they keep pulling her out of retirement because she's got so many certifications. She's the first person that pops up for any job. So these are very, very important. And to become a part of ASCM is free for a student. It's completely free. And we also welcome students to be a part of our board and get some experience before you graduate. So your connection this evening is way more important than you realize. So let's keep those screens on. Let's get to know you. Let's make sure you're talking to our speakers. The speaker portion of our evening is about to begin. Each speaker will be talking to you for 10 minutes, and then we'll have a 4-minute Q&A. So be thinking about what you want to know from each individual. Starting out our evening is Carla Gates. She's a purchasing manager at Zoll Medical, and she's going to talk to us about her purchasing job. Carla, we're so glad that you could get to our Zoom meeting face-to-face. Where are you?
I'm right here.
Awesome.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we
Perfect.
can, and I'm starting my clock. You got 10 minutes. Go.
All right. Well, I am so happy to have been invited to student night here at this chapter. Like she said, my name is Carla Gates, and I'm the purchasing manager at Zoll Medical Corporation. You may not have heard of Zoll because we don't really sell to the general public. You won't find our stuff on Amazon or at Walmart. We make medical units that in our facility primarily deal with heart defibrillation. So we make a unit for hospitals. It's also a monitor, one for ambulances. That's the X series there you're seeing, or the Propec MD, which is primarily military. And then we make AEDs, which you may see everywhere in schools, airports, your gym. Some people are even starting to buy them for your home. We're getting a lot of publicity right now because of the Damar Hamlin event last year. He is partnering with us to help spread the word and get more AEDs out there in the world. So our facility is in Chelmsford, Massachusetts, where we actually make these units that you're seeing here, except for the orange one that's made in Deerfield, Wisconsin. Zoll is a very large corporation. Our facility in Chelmsford produces over $1 million a year worth of revenue. I'm sorry, $1 billion a year versus of revenue. So just to kind of give you the scope of how big we are. So a little bit about myself. As per my LinkedIn bio, and if you're not on LinkedIn, you should be. I consider myself a supply chain professional. I've been around for a while. I admit 20 years. Currently at Zoll, I have 12 purchasing professionals underneath me who help manage purchase orders for over $400 million worth of spend. That's direct and indirect items. Currently, we're going through an Oracle upgrade, so I'm working on that implementation. And in the past, I have done SAP as well. Originally, I was certified as a CPIM back in 2005. And I also have my green belt in Lean Six Sigma from Caterpillar. At Zoll, we take the procurement portion of the supply chain and kind of break it down into two main segments. We have sourcing and purchasing. And so in purchasing, we're really inventory management focused to support operations and their efficiencies and impact the bottom line. Prior to that, I spent a couple of years as a commodity manager at Vicor. They make high-tech power supplies. And as a commodity manager, I did a little bit more portion of the supply chain, focused not just on inventory, but also on price, the sourcing side of things. And that was in electrical components, passive and active components, and some assemblies. A much smaller company. As I like to say, my hat was, a little bit thinner and taller than it is now at Zoll. It's a little shorter and wider. So depending on, what you enjoy, you may find that the size of company and the scope of what you do is what interests you. Prior to that, I was at ICP. You probably know them better as California Paints or California Sports Surfaces. The US Open Blue was theirs for many, many years. They made the original green Monster Green. And there, it's a very small company. And I was brought in to implement processes and procedures throughout the supply chain to improve their planning, their procurement, and their inventory management. And then prior to that, I was at Caterpillar, an amazing world-class, Fortune 500 company. And the role there was extremely narrow. I was what was called a site buyer, and my role was to make sure that we had parts sourced to the right supplier for that site. They had central purchasing, and so I was a liaison between central purchasing and our plant to make sure that the parts were coming from the best place for that site, both financially and logistically. So that's kind of my history and what I've gone through, or some of it. Like I said, I'm a little bit older. I have quite a few years under my belt. I've moved around a bit throughout the country. My husband has been transferred a few times, and I tag along with him. So they asked me tonight to talk about purchasing as a career, and part of the topic there is, why would you choose purchasing? And I love it. I started out, my first job out of college, I was an office manager for a teeny tiny manufacturing company, and I did everything from, you know, sweeping the floors and creating invoices to depositing checks and buying things. And I found that the buying things was what I liked. And so you can have a really large scope of duties if you work for a smaller company. Like I said, in some of the roles that I've had, I covered more chains and the links of the supply chain than I do currently. If you want, you can get a little more narrow focused. You can get technically focused, become a commodity expert, so to speak. You can also be very analytical, using reports, driving inventory improvements, those kinds of things. So if math is your thing, absolutely can thrive in a purchasing career. Some people like the sourcing side of it more and thrive on negotiations and focusing on cost. But no matter what you do, you're definitely going to need to communicate in purchasing. And communication is a large part of it, and part of what I love is you aren't just staring at a screen all day, you're talking to humans, whether it's on call like this, face-to-face, you know, or some other method. The other part that I really love is you get to be creative and constantly problem solve. The supply chain has many, many opportunities for errors and risk, as we like to call it nowadays. And so you're constantly trying to analyze your risk and think about different ways to work around it. And then right along with that comes in continuous improvement. I hope they're teaching you in your classes about continuous improvement, but it should be the core for any job, not just in purchasing, about always finding a better way. You know, in academia, they tell you don't plagiarize. When you get to your job, they're going to tell you plagiarize, take that idea from someone else and make it better. That's continuous improvement in my book. I also like that in purchasing, you're generally get to do leadership. You are the customer, so to speak. And so, you know, you are helping get what you need. Even though you maybe don't have direct control of them, you have to be a leader and lead your suppliers to provide a good partnership and get the parts that you need where you need them on time. And as I've touched on, there's many career paths. You know, of those scope of duties, you could work at a small company, do them all, or you could work at a big company and have a more narrow focus. You know, you can be an individual contributor, or you can go up the ranks through management. And purchasing can even lead to, you know, larger companies might have a VP of purchasing. But even if it's not that big of a company, I've seen many operations or plant managers come up through the ranks through purchasing as well. Excuse me. And purchasing is essential to business. We're the ones spending the money. And it's important that we use it wisely. It's what is a good part of what makes a company successful. And I love being important. I love being essential. So that's part of why I like purchasing. And like I was saying before, you can, you know, branch off your career. if you're in purchasing and you enjoyed that, but you found that it's really the projects that you enjoy, you can branch off and become a project manager, or expand your career and maybe branch off into the documentation side of things, get into the operations side of things, or other ways to expand your career. So just because you start in purchasing and maybe even stay there a long time doesn't mean that you have to be in it forever. It is a stepping stone to other things, or a bridge to other careers as well. And you'll be building a useful foundation, knowledge base that will last you for your career.
And we are
So
at
how do you
10
get a
minutes.
job?
We are at
Oh.
10 minutes, Carla. So if you want to spend the next minute or two wrapping up so that people can ask you questions.
So I'm going to do a little self-promotion. There are lots of ways to get jobs, but I really want to talk about the job that I have. I have a rotating co-op. I take one every winter and every summer session. So basically they start in the summer and go until the beginning of January, or start at the end of December and go until the end of summer. And currently I am hiring for my winter position. So if you're interested in being a co-op for Zoll Medical, go on to our zoll.com site and careers and apply.
There you go.
Can you put your email in the chat window, or the email that you want,
Yes.
or the link or something? That would be great. And then the students can copy it and check it out. That'd be great.
Absolutely. I will
They
do
need
that
to-
after I take questions, so I can focus on the questions.
Love
Well,
it.
my first question, Carla, would be whether or not they need to be at a certain grade level before they would be smart to apply.
No, I don't restrict it. Of course, the more coursework you've had in supply chain, the more knowledgeable you'll be and the better chance you'll have to get the job. But it's funny, some years I have dozens of applicants, and then some years I have 2, so you never know.
So I have a question about your co-op. Can you describe some of the qualities that some of your best co-ops had?
Usually it's the willingness to work. So my co-ops are largely remote, not totally. We do come in the office, and so they have to be kind of self-starters and motivators. I mean, they have tasks and stuff to do, but the ones that are successful are the ones who want to learn and want to get further and are constantly asking for more. We have work to give them, but generally there's projects and other things that we can give them as well if they're ambitious and want to learn more. And so the asking for what else can I do is what truly makes them successful.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Are employees expected to work all overnight shifts?
So we don't do any overnight shifts. My co-op is a regular first shift type of job. The hours are somewhat flexible, in that I don't necessarily make you start right at 7 or right at 8. But it's, you're expected to be available during normal business hours, including a lunch. So that's just how mine is. Every co-op can be different. So, and the reason I do co-ops and they are full-time is because this position for me is supporting my other purchasing professionals on my team. So it's a support position. So they need to be available when the rest of my team works, which is the first shift.
Thank you.
I have to say mine is more of a comment than a question, Carla. I come from McKesson, and I worked in customer service there for 12 years. I was doing setup coordinators, and I purchased from Zoll. So it was interesting to see that you were one of the speakers today. It's a small world. And actually now I'm a sourcing specialist for Parker. Hannafin. I'm with the fluid control division.
Who
out
we
of
buy
Detroit.
from.
Exactly. So I had to say that it was interesting, you know, to hear your background, and now that I've been a sourcing specialist for a year, and I'm going through my certification for CSCP right now, and it's great to hear, you know, your perspective of just the dynamic of supply chain, right? It really is in everything, and I feel like I have an edge with my team, even because I have both sides of it. I have customer service as well as now being a customer, you know, so it gives you a different perspective on the business itself, but
Absolutely.
it has been great. So it was great. It was great to hear you speak. I just wanted to say thank you.
Well, thank you. Dan, you had a question?
Yes, so
This will have to be the last question.
Okay. The question that I have for you is, would purchasing for like a medical company have any different issues than for other companies? For instance, I know for car manufacturing companies, they have to deal with buying chips for like the ECM and PCM. And it was an issue, you know, with the supply chain during COVID that caused any issues. Would you be able to elaborate on, you know, your experience working for a
Yes,
medical?
we have those same issues, right? Inside of our device is PCBAs, which are filled with all of those electrical components, passive, active, you know, resistors, all of that. And we've had major shortages. The difference is it's harder for us because everything we do has to be FDA approved. And so where a lot of other companies are able to make shifts and say replace, you know, a resistor from company A with a resistor from company B, we can't do that without getting FDA approval to do that first. So we have to take a few extra steps more than other companies do. It's just part of who we are because of the products that we make. And that's why medical companies are a little bit different, just like, you know, defense type contractors can be a little bit different because they have to know how to deal with the government rules. We have to know how to deal with the FDA rules. But that was a great question.
Thank you very much, Carla. And hopefully you'll be here at the end of the meeting, and there'll be an opportunity to ask Carla more questions if you'd like. At this point, we are a little bit past 17 minutes, trying to keep each one of these to 14. So it's my job to move us to our next speaker, is Lisa Staverink here. And I'm sorry if I've just botched your name.
That's okay. That's okay. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, so it's a Dutch name, Staverink. It's not very easy and definitely not common in the US. All right, so let me share my screen.
Lisa, thank you very much for being with us tonight.
My pleasure. Can you all see my screen?
And wait, no, I can't see it yet.
No, nothing yet.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's coming through. Got it.
Okay. There we go. Yeah, so I'd like to talk to you today about the position of data scientist in the supply chain specifically, but also data science as a bit more of a generic job because it is popping up in many different fields nowadays. I work for Axelis Technologies, so let me first explain to you briefly what the company does. Very briefly, because the product is quite complex and we don't need to go into details there. So we make ion implanters. These are huge machines, approximately the size of a container or a small room. And these machines are needed for chip manufacturing. Unfortunately, not the edible type of chips, but the chips that everyone needs nowadays in all the devices that we use, for example, in your phone. And we also make, specifically, we make machines to manufacture chips that go into electrical vehicles. As you can imagine, this is a fast growing and very successful company right now because the EV business is growing so fast. These machines are very complex. They consist of thousands of parts. that also makes the supply chain very complex. And you can imagine that that generates a lot of data. So there's data on the manufacturing side. So what machines are we building, in what phase, how many people are working on that, what shifts are they working, are we missing parts, etc. Then product support. If we sold a few of these machines, how are they doing? Are there any complaints? Do we need to fix anything? Are our customers happy? So I work in the supply chain, as I already mentioned. We have thousands of parts. We buy from hundreds of suppliers in 32 countries. So there's a lot of financial data there, and work orders, purchase orders, huge files with all the parts that are on order and also have arrived. Quality, again, that's the machines that we sold and how happy our customers are. And then research and development, because we're constantly developing new machines as well, using robots in our factory, and that all generates data. So, and this is the case with many companies right now, even though not all companies currently have data scientists. Many companies are starting to work towards hiring them, because we are becoming more and more of a data-driven world, and companies want to make use of that to make their business more intelligent. And that is where the position of data scientist comes in. So what does a data scientist generally do? First of all, the title data scientist, it's a bit like being a coach. It can mean many different things at different companies. It is not one specific title. So this, I've seen many different data positions. For example, data guru, data rockstar, and also data wrangler. That is an actual position. People just make up so many different names for the same thing. So that would be one of my first recommendations. Make sure that if you ever see a job position, make sure that you truly figure out what type of tasks are expected from you, because sometimes companies don't even really know what they are looking for, but they just want someone that does stuff with data. But basically, a data scientist builds algorithm using data. But still, that can mean many different things, because the data is not always ready to use, so to say. So if we look at a data pipeline like this with 5 different phases, then first of all, it is important to know, if you are working with data, what's the quality of the data? Is it already there in a nicely built database, or are you the one who should build that? And then also, how clean is that data, or are there many empty rows or spelling mistakes? Where does the data come from? And I can assure you that in most data science and also data analyst positions, cleaning of the data will be a big part, because we're all human, we make mistakes, and computers, even though artificial intelligence is developing rapidly, computers are still inherently very stupid. So if there's one thing wrong with the data, then the algorithm can break. So you have to make sure that your data is clean, or that the program knows how to deal with different formats of the data. Then exploring the data is very important. You got to know what you have, how representative is the data of the business. So that is definitely a big part of data science. Of course, building the model. That means that you tell the computer, by using a programming language, how to use the input of the clean data, how to use that and combine it into output for the business. And then that output needs to be presented. And that is not always the job of a data scientist, but it can definitely be. In my job, it is a lot of fun. You can build visualizations and even models for your users to make it interactive. Sometimes that is more of a task for the business analyst. So to mention some other jobs that are adjacent to the data scientist and sometimes overlap with the data scientist, just for you to take note, because there are many jobs in this job market. So a data engineer would be in the first two stages of the data pipeline. So the data engineer takes care of getting data in good quality and putting that into a database so that it can be used by people who are building models. Data analyst is a big field where you answer business questions using data. So it's not necessarily working on the raw data, but the data is already there and you use it to answer complex questions. The business analyst builds models and mainly visualizes data for the business. So you can build dashboards, for example, using Power BI. This is a large part of my job as well. It has many business analysts aspects to it. Then software developer, that is more of a technical part of the job where you actually build entire suites of software for people to use. And then the machine learning engineer, that is a very hot field, of course, artificial intelligence. So that is very heavy on the model part of the data pipeline. So as you can see, this is just a very brief overview of the different types of positions, but my recommendation definitely would be to make sure that you figure out in which part of the data pipeline you want to specialize. Every part has beautiful jobs associated with it, but make sure that you know what you want to do, because that allows you to stand out in the job market, because there are just so many jobs and so many people looking for jobs as well that it can feel a bit chaotic. So my path towards becoming a data scientist, I have always liked mathematics. So I love working with numbers and formulas, or I already liked it in high school. So therefore I decided to study mathematics. I did my bachelor's in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. I moved to the US 1 year ago, so I was educated in Europe, and also acquired a master's in applied mathematics at the Delft University of Technology. A master's definitely is not mandatory to become a data scientist, but you do make sure to learn how to code. So many people do that autodidactically, and thankfully there are many resources online to do this. And I have some recommendations for that at the end of this talk. Something that is important is that you make sure that you have a background in basic statistics, that you know what type of statistics you can use to show the data and what it means, because a common mistakes in using data is to make bad use of statistics. For example, cherry picking in the data. You always have to make sure that you are choosing representative data for the business problem that you're solving, and having a background in statistics really helps you to get a grasp of whether you are using the right data to answer the question. So I would say it's definitely a science. It is a technical job. You don't have to be brilliant at mathematics, but do make sure that you enjoy it, because it's a large part of the job. Characteristics of a data scientist, I would describe definitely as curious, because you are the person answering the business questions and you got to dive into the data. You also got to persevere. Sometimes, especially with the data cleaning, or you stumble upon just many corners of the business that were not developed enough. So sometimes you gotta still gather and clean the data. So have to make sure that you know how to persevere. Detailed oriented, because you are the person that you show a summary of your model to the client, but you gotta know all the details. Sometimes you gotta be patient and know your client. And that can also be internal to the business. For example, I don't interact with clients. My clients are the directors of the company. Let me give you 2 examples of projects that I'm working on. So here is one of our products.
Before you go on, Lisa, before you go on, I need to let you know that you have 1 minute to wrap up.
Okay, yes, will do. Yeah, so 2 quick examples of projects that I'm working on. Again, this is our Purion product. And this product consists of thousands of parts that we buy from hundreds of suppliers. So one big challenge is, how do you manage, if you really need a part, then you want to have multiple suppliers that provide that part, but you also don't want to pay too much. So how do you balance that risk of the multiple suppliers with the cost? So you don't want to always go for the cheapest supplier. Sometimes you got to have the more expensive supplier, but not always. So that is a model that I built. And also I'm predicting cost savings for the company. So for example, there are many changes on the tools, and I estimate the impact of those changes. When you do bulk orders, you get a discount. You can forecast that. We have multiple factories, so in the US and in South Korea. What do we want to build where? And also, what is the impact of new suppliers, cost changes, etc. So there's a lot of data involved with that. Recommendations for courses to take. So as I said, statistics, then also calculus always comes in handy. Coding, SQL, R, Python, Java, Go, or C. This is from basic to more complex. Will all get you a good job. Machine learning is very popular. Visualization, so definitely Power BI or R Shiny are very popular. And then field-specific courses. So if you want to work in supply chain, then knowledge about supply chain is or business is very important. Huge amount of courses can be found online. So don't worry if you don't know how to program yet. You can teach that yourself. I would recommend Kaggle.com for data science challenges. That's a lot of fun, and you can use real life data. And it is good to build a portfolio with example projects, and many of these can be found online. So just look at what people have been doing, and that gives you a good overview to when you apply, then you can show your future employer what you have been doing already. That was it. Thank you so much for your time.
We have 2 minutes for questions for Lisa.
Sure.
I'd like to ask Lisa a question.
I have a question. So you mentioned that you have a lot of different parts that go into the machine that you guys make. How complicated is your supply chain, and what ways do you, how do you kind of go about making it less complicated, if that makes sense?
That definitely makes sense. That's a good question. The supply chain is very complex. And for example, some parts that go into the machine are, we buy separate parts from multiple suppliers, and then we make that into a larger component that goes into the machine. But other components, we actually have that made at another supplier, but buy the different stuff from other suppliers again. So it is very complex. And when building models, you always have to simplify. So I am making assumptions, for example, on that a cost stays stable over the year. And you have to make assumptions like that. And as long as you tell the people for which you're building the model what those assumptions are, then you make sure that you're still talking about the same stuff. But so yeah, I'm simplifying all the time. Hope that answers the question a bit.
Thank you. Do we have another question?
Yeah,
I have
actually, go ahead.
I have a quick question. I know you talked a lot about various suppliers that you work alongside with. What are some examples of the suppliers that you work with?
To be honest, I don't work with suppliers directly. I work with the buyers who manage the suppliers. And so what I do, for example, is that the buyers will tell me if there are cost increases associated with the suppliers. And I'm not sure whether I can actually share who our suppliers are. I think that may be confidential. But that for example, we make machines to build chips, but we also buy chips to go into the machine. It's all a bit meta. So we are in touch with chip manufacturers. But I myself am not, I don't I don't have an outward facing position. I work with my Excelis colleagues directly, which saves time because then you don't have to do the client management. I leave that up to other people. They are great at it.
And I know you're modest and you won't say this, but Lisa works at our company and we are so lucky to have her. She's fixed so many things for us. A data analyst can really fix a company up nicely like Lisa did for us. So thank you so much, Lisa.
Thanks,
And
Ken.
we'll take one more question. Lara, I believe you had a question.
Actually, I believe you may have answered it. I was
Okay.
thinking that with what you described with the supply chain, particularly with sensitive components, that there must be a political aspect to that model. But it sounds like maybe that's taken care of by the buyers. They'd be aware of the turmoil in various areas and where they might be considering not getting supplies from for a time being.
Definitely, yes. Yeah, most of the stuff that I'm doing is confidential to the company. And then it also, so some of the models forecast financial data, and then even within the company, it can be confidential that not everyone is seeing that. So yes, definitely inward facing, my job.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
No problem at all. My pleasure.
And hopefully you'll be able to stay with us and answer more questions at the end of the evening if people still have more questions.
All right, thank you.
And now we're going to move on to Neeraj. I know that I have seen Neeraj Shah on the screen tonight. Ken, are you sharing a screen? Because right now we're looking at everybody who registered.
I'm here, Karen.
Okay, and now we're looking at a beautiful blue something. Design. Neeraj is a project manager. He is the founder and managing partner of Boston Insights. Are you there, Neeraj? He is starting his screen sharing now.
Awesome.
I see his face.
Yeah.
So right now you're on the Zoom screen there, Raj. You want to go right to the PowerPoint screen and pull that to this monitor.
Yeah.
There you go. We're really lucky to have Neeraj on our board of directors for ASCM Massachusetts Minuteman. He is a project management expert.
Thank you, Ken, and thank you, Karen. So guys, I'm really happy and excited to meet this team here, like so many students and, and your interest in these topics. Tonight, I'm going to talk about project management, and this topic is very, very close to my heart because this has actually, project management has helped me to shape my career to where I am today. Hence, when Ken asked me to come and speak on this topic, I was really, really excited. So before we get into the details, I just want to give a brief introduction about myself. There's a lot of content here, but I'm not going to go through all the details, but I'm very happy to share with you guys that recently I've launched a company called Boston Insights. And very briefly about Boston Insights. So Boston Insights is a product company as well as a management consulting company. So we have developed a product for supply chain management in the area of clinical trials supply chain. So we built something called Clinical Supply Chain Control Tower, and it also works as a workbench for planners and logistics managers. If any of you are interested, I'm happy to talk to you more separately, or you can reach out to me, connect with me on LinkedIn. It's a very, very unique product in the industry. Honestly, we don't really have a competition directly. There are some other products which may have some overlap, but what it does is it looks into the entire value stream or the entire end-to-end processes of clinical trials supply chain management. And it pulls data from across the value stream to provide end-to-end visibility. And also it helps in risk management, and it helps in planning, reduces the planning lead time. So it's a very, very unique product. I've spent about 18 years in the pharma industry, life science industry. I've been really lucky to have worked for some of the leading organizations in the world, like Bristol Myers Squibb, Celgene Corporation before it was acquired by Bristol Myers, Shire Pharmaceuticals, which is now known as Takeda, and before that, I worked for Biogen Idec. Now, all these while in all these years, my focus has been supply chain in the life science industry, both commercial and clinical supply chain. And my strengths are, as you can see here, is strategy, business strategy, supply chain management, operations excellence, and digital transformation of supply chain and manufacturing. So what the value that I brought to these organizations is my knowledge of technology, my understanding of the domain expertise in supply chain, and combining the two to provide transformation of the supply chain. I'll not go through the details. I've given some examples of some of the key projects or some of the key initiatives that I have led successfully at BMS, at Celgene, at Shire Pharmaceuticals. But my core strength, I feel, is driving process optimization, digital innovation.
Not sure if it's just me. Is there? Yeah,
Yeah.
You might have audio fading in out.
Neeraj, kill your video, and then not keep sharing screen, but just kill your camera for the moment. Just shut off.
Okay, no problem.
It's taking a lot of bandwidth. Neeraj is actually traveling at a conference, and he's dialing in from there. It was so nice of him to do that. We really appreciate it, Neeraj.
No problem. Is that better, guys?
Yes.
Awesome. Yep. So yeah, so there are some examples here, but process optimization, digital innovation, and selecting the right technologies, is one of my core strengths. And what I really love doing is developing strategies, developing digital roadmaps, and then executing them successfully. That's what I've enjoyed doing over these years. So that's a little bit about me and the new company that I've recently launched. Moving to, hang on, guys. Some reason the slides are not moving. Let me see what I can do. Oh, okay. Can you guys still see the screen? Is this okay?
Yes, we can, Neeraj. Yes, we can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll not put it in the display mode. I'll just talk with this mode here.
That's perfect.
Okay, yeah. So why project management? So project management is it can be both. By career you can be a project manager, and it can also be used as a skill, no matter what you're doing, right? So in the previous sessions, Carla was talking about communication, negotiation. So all of these things are amplified at least 10 times when you work as a project manager. So the point I'm trying to make here is project management is a horizontal skill. No matter what you are, whether you're a supply chain manager or you do something else, you're a financial manager, finance manager, you should have project management skills. Now, you can also make this a career for yourself and be a project manager, a program manager, or a lead program manager. So there are a lot of opportunities in this space. So you can decide, and at least at this point in your career, it's always good to have that skill. And there's some research information that I've gathered here, done by Project Management Institute. So there's a huge talent gap in the project management space. There's constant need for project managers. What they've predicted is by 2027, employers would need around 90 million individuals with skill in project management. And if we are not able to fill that gap, it could impact, there was some research done by them across 11 countries. This could impact around $208 billion in GDP across those 11 countries that they researched. So the good news is there's definitely demand for this skill, which will make sure that when you apply for jobs, if you put if you see that project management skill, that will definitely give you an edge over others. Like when I'm trying to hire people, as I start slowly, I definitely ask young people like yourself, hey, do you have project management skills? Can you make a plan? Do you know how to manage stakeholders, right? So this is a very, very interesting space. Just to share some anecdotal information is for Boston, like we call it ASCM, but used to call it APICS back in the day. I used to train people on project management, the PMP program. Of course, we can talk later about that. And I have always enjoyed running those programs because, and people enjoyed it as well, because it was not just the theoretical part of it. What I used to really enjoy is to talk about the challenges I faced at work and how I solved it. And that is what it made more like a conversation and learning from example versus more like going for just for a certification. Certification is definitely an add-on, but you know, learning from real life examples is what makes you a solid project manager. So moving on, why is it important, right? So yes, there is some demand, as you saw. So basically, it's a good opportunity because you'll always have the job if you have the project management skill. But why is it essential for organizations? See, if you see this this diagram here, companies have strategic vision, and project management is the bridge between strategic vision and tangible outcomes, which is basically execution. So you might have heard this word, right, where your strategy is as good as how it is executed, right? You may have the best strategies, but if you don't have a good execution plan, and if you're not able to execute it, then your strategy is of no use. And that is where project management fits in. How do you execute? And there's so many things to learn in project management: managing teams, managing your leaders, managing different stakeholders, documentation, managing there's something called stakeholder management, different kinds of stakeholders in the organization. So you're constantly changing your strategy, you're constantly negotiating with people, and you are delivering. So end of the day, a project has a fixed start and a finish, and you're expected to deliver something tangible, right? And that is what it says towards the end, right? Tangible outcome. What could be that tangible outcome? You might have a project to improve the operational efficiency, right? Reduce the inventory. There are companies who have very high inventory and they want to reduce the inventory, reduce lead times, right? So these could be the project objectives, and through project management or through execution, you are able to accomplish that.
Neeraj, I hate to tell you, but you have 1 minute to wrap up, please.
Oh my God. Okay, fine. So we'll talk about project management skills, a little bit about skills, and ensure alignment with organizational goals, translating strategy into execution plan, and project execution leads to tangible outcomes, which I talked about. Project charter, I'll not spend a lot of time, so I at least wanted to bring this up here. What is a project charter? It's a very important deliverable when you are ready to begin a project. So project charter is a document issued by the project sponsor that formally authorizes the existence of a project and provides project manager with an authority to apply organizational resources. So this is something that you guys should be aware of. And again, if you guys are keen, we can have a conversation later on. So this is at the beginning of the project. Here are some resources if you want to learn more. I just want to tell you, there are two kinds of project management certification for young college graduates. Is the general project management and then the agile project management. So this is the conventional one, which you are in any other industry accepting software, or technology, then you can go for this. And if you are working in the software space, then agile project management is the way to go. So there are some links here, which I'll send this slide and you can check it out. There's a couple of opportunities coming up at Boston Insights. I've not given the details. So looking for a business analyst who has background in data science and analytics, and also someone who is good in marketing. I've given my email ID here, my LinkedIn profile. Feel free to connect with me. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Also reach out to me later on.
Neeraj, can you put that in
questions,
chat?
guys?
Yeah, can you put that in chat? And that way people
my
can
my contact information.
Yeah, that'd be great. Just
Yeah,
pop
okay,
it in
sure.
the chat window.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Niraj. And he will take questions now.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I can't see anyone.
I was just gonna ask, what do you think are like
Go
the
ahead.
most important like skills? Because it seems like you mentioned marketing, you mentioned like finance. Do you think it's like you need kind of knowledge of the entire business world to be good at project management, or?
No, project. So is this specific to these opportunities, or you're talking about the project management skill set?
Well, I meant like the skill set as a whole.
Okay. So you don't really need any business knowledge per se, right? As long as you have that outgoing personality and you are willing to talk to people, you are a good negotiator, you're a good communicator, right? And you are a go-getter who's willing to drive things. I think those are the key things. You don't need any financial knowledge, you don't need any other domain knowledge. And project managers work in different verticals, so you don't need to have any vertical knowledge to be a project manager. You could work in a bank, or you could work for a software company or a manufacturing company.
Did that answer your question, Robert?
Yeah, thank you.
William?
I had a question. I was just wondering, why do you think that project management has been so important nowadays? You had that statistic that showed that there would be a serious loss if you did not fulfill the amount of new project managers. Why do you think that's such an important role at companies?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So what we have realized over the years is, guys, for example, and that is where we blend this project management program with the supply chain program in the past, is we have found that people may be good in the domain area or functional knowledge, but they don't know how to execute. They don't know the principles of project management. And what happens is huge amount of money that is invested in getting things done don't get done. That is why there's huge demand for project managers who understand the project management principles and the processes and how to run a project start to finish. Because execution was a problem. To answer in short, execution was a problem. There was strategy, there was plan, but people could not execute it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that's great.
And we'll take one last question. Heather?
Hi, Niraj. My question is I'm in supply chain, so I'm a sourcing specialist with Parker Hannifin, and I came from an environment at McKesson where we did have a PMP. I'm finding that in my day-to-day workflow, a lot of the projects I work on could have an advantage of having a project manager. We try in our day-to-day to do it, but we have engineers that are trying, buyers that are trying. What's some pro tips you could share with me how to step up? I am mid-career, and would it be to get an additional certification on top of a supply chain professional?
Yes, absolutely. So for your level, I would say that getting a PMP certification is a good one. PMP program has evolved over the years. Earlier, there was a lot of focus on processes, but the key thing is you should be a good people manager, because when you're managing projects, so I would definitely recommend that you take that certification project management. And depending upon exactly what kind of industry you are in and what you want to do, I can definitely suggest. But I can tell you, I can almost guarantee you that if you go through that program, you go through that rigor, you will become a much better in execution, actually.
Yeah, my bachelor's is in healthcare administration. My earlier career was with McKesson, and now I'm in supply chain with Parker Hannifin. So having two worldwide companies under my belt, and trying to advance in the leadership role as my next steps,
yes.
I would like to get into healthcare supply chain. So that's why I was asking specifically those questions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you have everything else that you need. It's just that, having that ability to, manage your leadership and manage your peers and manage your project team. I think that will help you a lot.
I appreciate the advice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Dan, I see that you have your hand up for a question. We are completely out of time. If it's quick, then let's take the question. If not, we can address it at the end of the session. So you've got 10 seconds. Go ahead.
It's okay. I don't, we can move past it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much, Niraj.
You're welcome.
I hope you too can stay with us until the end of the meeting and answer more
I
questions.
have to step out for a dinner. Actually, some of my colleagues are waiting for me, but again, I welcome anybody to connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll send you this updated deck. Ken, and share it with the team.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you again for dialing in from afar. Really appreciated.
No problem. No
All
worries.
right.
No
Now
worries.
I'd like to move on to our fourth speaker, and that would be Keen Regan, a finance and contracts person who works for U.S. Surgical Finance. I'm sorry, works for Medtronics. He is a U.S. Surgical Finance analyst. And are you with us, Keen?
Yes, I am. How's everybody doing tonight?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Are you guys able to see my PowerPoint on the screen here?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Of course. So I'm gonna try to go through this as quick as possible because I'd like to leave more questions at the end if that's capable, but I'm just gonna jump right into it. So I am 2 years into my role at Medtronic as a finance analyst. I started off my career in operations and manufacturing finance, and I've recently taken a promoted role to the U.S. Surgical Finance team supporting hernia and the wound closure portfolios. I have just a quick, let me, guys. I have a quick about me slide here. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in finance and economics from the University of New Hampshire in 2021. And during my senior year of college, I started my own business. You can see it right there on the screen. It's called Fried. It's a
You're not
late night.
looking at the right slide.
Oh, here, let me see.
There you go.
You see the about me slide now? Are you able to see the about me slide?
Yep.
Yes,
we can.
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
So I've been in my current role, like I said, at Medtronic for 2 years, and I was also an intern during college for 2 years. And in college, I started a late night restaurant called Fried. We ended up expanding and opening up some food trucks. So I was doing that for a while, until I decided to come back to Connecticut and join and start up my corporate career at Medtronic. I just kind of wanted to dive in to, let's see if you're able to see my screen. My presentation's a little bit off right now, but you should be able to see my screen with Medtronic on it, if that's
We are.
Yep.
okay. So just a little bit about Medtronic. It's in the medical tech industry. Certainly now focusing more on robotic procedures, as that's the way that the medical device technology industry has been going. The headquarters is based in Dublin, Ireland, and we have a few different groups that then trickle down into portfolios. But if you look at the overarching company, we have a minimally invasive technology group, a diabetes group, restorative therapies group, and a cardiovascular group. So they all work in different surgeries. Our devices improve the lives of 2 people every second, which is a pretty cool metric. And we compete in markets against Johnson & Johnson and Intuitive Technology. So I'm sure Johnson & Johnson is a company that you guys recognize. We currently have about a $31 billion annual revenue. And again, my focus now is on the hernia and wound closure portfolios. And the cool thing about, going into career in finance is your ability to move into different areas of the business. Going from my previous role in operations, I was working closely hand in hand with engineering managers in capital expenditure projects. So you know, how do we make our current lines more efficient? And I would work with them to help budget for projects and making sure POs are processing correctly, to now, you know, my focus is more revenue driven, working with marketing, demand planning, supply chain, on how do we get product to the places it's most important and most valued. Because at the end of the day, our goal at Medtronic is to make sure that people are getting the surgeries done that need to be done. You know, whether it's me, I'm focused on the US region, but if there's demand outside of the US and project needs to get allocated there globally, that's important. So we always are making sure that our patients are put first. A little bit about, you know, the upsides to working in finance that I've felt so far is that there's strong job security. You know, if you look at any company, whether it's a corporate company like Medtronic, or you work in, you know, personal finance, like more stock market based, you know, there's always a high demand for people with a finance, economics, and business background in general. And I'll get further into that through my presentation, but you know, something I also really enjoyed through my time in corporate finance was the partnerships that I've made with other groups. You know, I didn't go to school for marketing, but because I'm working in finance, I've got to spend a lot of time hand in hand with marketing and seeing, you know, at a global level how demand for our product is moving. And it helps me turn and forecast accurate data to our leadership that turns, and then Medtronic, you know, it's a publicly traded company. The numbers that I'm producing and I'm presenting to leadership, they end up on the street. You know, you could see them, you could read about them in the newspaper, you could see them online, you know, and it kind of makes you feel, you know, more appreciated and important when you're seeing the data that you're presenting show up in, you know, these places. You know, I've found that I've had a better understanding of how money works and how the economy works, and it's helped me outside of my corporate role at Medtronic as well. I'm gonna kind of skip through it, but you know, we've heard a lot already, you know, about systems work, and that is definitely a big part of, you know, my role. You know, we use ERP systems. I heard someone talking about SAP earlier, and that's a system that we use. And throughout your career, you're always gonna, you know, be learning different systems, and it's important to keep that mentality of continuous improvement and continuous learning. I kind of just, you know, I put together a workflow illustration of, you know, say you want to you start your career in supply chain, or you start your career in marketing, manufacturing, finance, etc. You know, the biggest goal when you're starting out your career is, you know, you want to join a company that you find value in, that you feel appreciated in as well. And through that company, the doors open up to any job that you might want to work. You know, you start there and you build these valuable connections through hard work and dedication. You know, showing up on time, it changes everything. When you show up on time and you have the mentality that you want to get better, the people around you, that energy feeds off, and it creates a good work environment. And, you know, just a really cool quick story is that the site director at North Haven, the plant that I'm working in, he started out working in the clean rooms on the line, manufacturing our products. You know, when you learn that the business from the ground up, and especially in a supply chain role, you know, you're seeing every different end of the business, your opportunities are endless. You end up being able to, you know, he's our senior director at the site. You know, everybody reports to him. And I found that, you know, through creating these valuable connections, you then can seek new job opportunities. And it's always good to continue to learn. You know, you want to stay in a role, master it and learn it. But once you feel like you've learned it, it's good to open up and kind of look around at different avenues on where you can grow your career. And by your hard work and dedication, management, you know, cares a lot more about you, and they're more willing to put you into those different roles. In those different roles, you know, you want to continue to learn and seek new improvement and opportunity. You don't want to ever get complacent. You know, if you can keep moving and keep learning, those roles will continue to open. And, you know, something that you might have never thought you ever wanted to go into marketing, or you never thought you wanted to go into sales, you have those different opportunities to jump around. And through the continuous improvement and learning, you know, your visions become success. But I think whatever role you're joining or starting off into, understanding what the end goal is for the business. You know, in my roles in operations, the end goals were different than my roles in commercial finance and a revenue driven forecast. So knowing those goals, it kind of helps feed that vision of how you succeed in that role. And then I just had a slide about questions, and I don't know how I'm doing on time, but if there's any questions, anybody, if we wanted to open the floor up.
You're doing great on time.
All right. Yeah, I know I kind of ripped through it, but I like
This is-
having more
This
questions.
was perfect. And I couldn't, you know, I taught professional communications for UMass Lowell, and I cannot stress the stuff that you've been talking about in your presentation. And it's like better said by someone who just graduated than me. So thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
I see people have their hands up.
Yes, bring it on. Please ask away.
Hi, I was wondering, what would you recommend, how much time you spend at a role before moving on and taking the skills from that role and trying to apply it from another position?
Definitely. That's a great question. So when you look at it from a standpoint of what you want to put on your resume, you don't really want to put anything on your resume that you spent less than a year in. You know, it depends on the stage of your resume. When you're first getting started, you're going to put everything you can on your resume, but as time goes on, you'll lean off of that a little bit. And to be honest with you, there's not a clear-cut answer. You know, you might get into a role 6 months in, you're making improvement, you're feeling comfortable, you understand what your business, there's always business partners, no matter what role you're in. Once you understand what they're wanting, you make your role well defined. It could take you 6 months, it could take you 3 years, but you'll know when you realize that, you know, the next fiscal year rolls around and you say, oh, okay, like I kind of have a handle on this. Why don't I look elsewhere and see how I can continue to improve myself?
Thank you.
Of course.
I have to say, Keen, piggybacking off of what Karen said, you know, coming from a recent graduate and speaking, you know, from me being mid-career and looking for my next step into leadership roles and management roles, you said it very well. I always say, you know, one of the best pieces of advices I've ever heard was dress for the job that you want, not the job you have, right? I notice you have a button down. I worked from home today. I got tie-dye, but tomorrow I'm traveling to an account and I will be putting on my power blazer and have my, you know, my millennial portfolio, you know what I mean?
Right.
My question is, so I am a sourcing specialist right now, and I find that in my day-to-day, there is a lot of conflict between my AP department and procurement. Are you seeing the same thing on your side as far as, and it might be different in your role, but do you kind of see like a battle of power there?
Yeah, I could definitely speak to that. I think that in any role that you're in, you're going to have clash with business partners, and sometimes you even get to the point where you don't always have to be right. What I always say is I step back a little bit and I try to understand it from another person's point of view. We just had a great Kaizen event. I know Bev was on the call earlier. I work with Bev. She's in demand planning. We had an event. It was finance, demand planning, and marketing. And I think that I could kind of speak to, in your sense with accounts payable, is that like, you know, finance, a lot of the time, they're pretty strict on what they want to see. And some of it comes down from pressures on forecasts. And I think from a finance standpoint, sometimes it's important to step back and come to the reality of what the market and what the economy is showing, you know, because there might be delays in it for accounts payable and sourcing specifically. You might be actually like looking at the same problem and just wording it differently from a sourcing and
Yeah, I can definitely see that. We did do a mini Kaizen, you know, but it has been kind of in my thought to maybe get another one going to improve the communication between our AP department and our buyers. you know, because
Totally.
there is a lot of tugging in either direction, and it's for the same, you know, the same goal, the numbers and the bottom line and cash flow and everything. So
100%. And I always say too, is that like at the end of the day, yeah, I might be in finance and who I'm working with might be in marketing, but we're still one business. At the end of the day, it's Medtronic, and we're trying to change
at
patients'
the end
lives,
of the
and
day,
we're
it's
gonna
the
do it together.
customers and the patients
Right.
and everybody.
All right, 2 more
Understandable.
questions
Thank you.
we have. Sorry to rush you along,
No.
but we're down to our last minute. So Robert and Dan, I would like to give you an opportunity to ask your quick questions and see if, is it Keen, right?
Keen. Yep. Keen.
Okay.
I was just gonna ask, like, so based on like your own like experience you've mentioned, would you, sorry, my roommate's back there, but would you say that like kind of the actual experience with the job is more important than like your college learning?
100%, Robert. And I always speak to this too, is I think what I learned best was the lingo in college, because you want to be able to go into a meeting and understand when they're talking about financial forecasts, P&L statements, balance sheets. You want to understand the metrics and what they're talking about. But at the end of the day, anywhere you go to work, you're going to have to learn a little bit something new about how the business works. So it's that continuous improvement. Take the basis and knowledge you learn from school and then apply it where you can. It's useful in both ways.
All right, and one last quick question, Dan W.
You talking about me?
Well, I have Dan Westhaver's hand up, but I also
Oh.
have your hand up too. Dan, I saw your hand first. Dan Westhaver, do you have a question?
Yeah, the question that I was going to ask is how much does forecasting play a role in, you know, the field of business finance?
Yeah, I could jump right into it. And forecasting is everything, and forecasting is consistently changing. So, you know, you're going to start your year off with your AOP, your annual operating plan, and that's going to be your base. But then, you know, 3 months in, you're going to do a 7Q forecast, and that's 7 quarters out, because it's like an adjustment. You kind of seen a few months into the year, a couple of quarters. Okay, readjust. Then you're going to jump in again, and it gets granular into a 10Q forecast, a 1Q forecast, until you get into the next year again and you do an AOP. So to be honest with you, the forecast is not just one thing, it's kind of a continuous forecast. Just get it right. And I know that was the last question, but I wanted to say, you know, I'm on LinkedIn, you know, shoot me a message if you, I know there's Dan, you also have another question. Feel free to shoot me a message on LinkedIn. And for example, and everybody on the call, there was a student at the University of New Hampshire where I went. He's a junior this year. He reached out to me on LinkedIn. I didn't know him before, but you know that it shows a lot when somebody wants to reach out to you, because it shows they care about their career growth. And you know, in 2 days, he sent me a resume. I have his resume fluctuating through Medtronic right now to see if we can land him a spot. So if I could give you any advice, it's reach out, do it.
And the faster after you network, you reach out, the better.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Was your question quick, Dan?
Yeah, and just also adding on to what you said about connecting. I just sent you a connect in the invitation request. So
perfect.
First of all, I just wanted to let you know that. And second, when you got your job at Medtronics, was it a long process of getting accepted to certain internships to get that experience in the office setting, or were you just offered this job at first hand and you were able to work there?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It took a little bit of time, and everybody on the call, be ready for it could take months. And for a reason on that too, it's not even your fault. It's not when you applied. Half the time, HR, they don't even really have everything they need yet to start accepting applications. You know, they're kind of sitting in a pool, and they sometimes get dispersed after that. But like, don't be upset if you're not hearing back right away, because it takes some time. And then, you know, everybody on the call, once you get in there, even onboarding takes some time. You're going to need to get access to all the systems, learn how to use them. So just, you know, it's okay if it takes time. It's okay.
So helpful to hear from somebody who's out there, somebody who's new. I hope that helped answer your question quickly, Dan. Again, I hope team can stay on the call and answer any further questions at the end. We have one more speaker to go. We're running about 5 minutes late. Oh, almost 10 minutes late. So let's get into learning about master scheduling and planning from Michael. Is it Piers? Where are you, Michael? Is Michael with us, Ken?
Sorry, I was on mute. My bad.
Okay.
Yes, my name is Michael Pyers. I work for Pratt & Whitney, RTX Corporation. Am I sharing right now, actually? Let me make sure I start sharing.
You are now.
Okay, so you see the jet?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so
Thank
as you
you.
know, Pratt & Whitney, many people know the company. We're a world leader in manufacturing, designing, and servicing of aircraft engines. This particular airframe here is an F-135, the STOVL design. What STOVL stands for is short takeoff and vertical landing. It's a single engine airframe. So the engine's right here, and then we have the nozzle down below. When it could take off vertically, basically. So the air is pointing to the ground there, and then you have a lift fan here where air is like a big fan blowing down. So it could physically take off straight from the ground and go up. It's a pretty cool design. I had worked on that program when early in the stages. So that's just one of the cool things that we do. Okay, I want to show a little fact sheet real quick too, just to go a little bit, because we do commercial and military. We have 41,000 employees as of 2022, just the net sales of 20.5 billion. This is just Pratt & Whitney. We have other divisions like Collins Aerospace and Raytheon and all those other things. Adjusted operating profit of $1.3 billion. So we're a very large company. A lot of people are sought out to work here. And we have some good ways of getting in, which I would recommend towards the end of how to get into Pratt & Whitney or RTX in general. There's some leadership programs that are great for especially when you graduate. Those are good to get in. Gives you a lot of exposure and experience. So here are some of the military engines we do. So we're on over 7,000 military engines right now that are in service. The one I just showed you is this F-135 Lightning. And some of these are older ones like the TF-33, the Falcon, the F-100s. Everybody's heard of F-16s. It was in the movie Top Gun. They were flying them. F-16s, not just Pratt & Whitney. There are GE engines on there as well. And then, of course, the F-119 is the F-22 Raptor. Another cool, that's a dual engine airframe. Very cool. The newest technology we have is the geared turbofan. And this is this is pretty cool. It's a 20% fuel efficient. So it's 50% lower noise, lower emissions, and 75% smaller noise footprint. So if you've been in like Spirit Airlines or some of those airframes, you probably won't even hear the engine when you're on it. Or most of the time you can hear the engines hovering, like making the noise, that humming noise. You won't hear it as much with a geared turbofan. Less parts and things like that. Another one, this is the program I actually work on, is the PW800. It's the smaller jet airframes like corporate jets, and then you have these PT6s. I don't work on the PT6, I work on the PW800, but these have propellers. My engines do not. They look like this, just a smaller version of it. So the PW812, and then I have a 814 as well. And then we have some cool technology where fast technology enables us to help predict and prevent future maintenance issues. This engine-wise is a really cool that their airframers are looking to that like. It has data analytics, real-time intelligence to predict and prevent disruptions on the engine. So it can tell if there's something wrong. It'll give the pilot a warning, and they'll decide. Hopefully it's nothing bad. They'll decide whether or not they need to shut the engine down or land or whatever might happen, or it needs an oil change, things like that. It knows how many hours the engine ran, things like that. It's pretty cool. So I'll go back to this slide here. A little bit about my background. I've been with UTC, it's now RTX, for 22 years. I was in different divisions of UTC, but mainly Pratt & Whitney. I worked in areas like warehousing, inventory management. I did things like Kanbans, and those are all the terms you'll see in the APICS or ASCM books. Procurement, I was in procurement for years. Then I went to planning. These all kind of tie in together. It's kind of like a well-rounded career path that I had. So planning, and then I went to delivery assurance. I won't be an APICS or an ASCM. It's not in there. It's a order fulfillment kind of thing. they made that role at Pratt & Whitney, and other companies might have as well, because I was in procurement and planning. It's kind of like when you're talking to suppliers, they'll tell you one thing on the phone, especially international ones, and then they don't deliver. Obviously, we have shortages now. So I used to travel around the world to different suppliers and get them to make sure they're doing what they're saying they're going to do. I'd go on the shop floor and I would talk to them about parts. I'm just going to try to skip through this quick. And then I went to Engine Master Scheduling's, where I am now, currently planning the PW800 program, the 812 and the 814. What kind of drew me into supply chain role and then master scheduling, because it all started when I was in high school. I worked in a warehouse, place called Ingram Micro D, and it was kind of like an Amazon before there was an Amazon, but it was all computer related, like software, computers, Gateway, Dell. They didn't have Dell, but they had stuff like that. Hardware, anything you need for computer, they had it and they sold it. So I was like picking, shipping, packing, receiving, and there was the procurement specialists. There were a couple up front in the office, and I ended up becoming friends with them and going to lunch and stuff. And I started, hey, what do you do? That kind of thing. And they told me about procurement. I said, oh, that sounds interesting. I'd be interested in that. So I continued on my path doing that, and then I graduated high school, and then I went to college, and then from there I started working in the industry. I worked at Duracell before I went to a couple other companies, Siemens Company, and then JDS Uniphase, and then UTC for the past 22 years. Okay, and then I'll get to the Engine Master Schedule role, and I'm trying to move quick because I know we don't have a lot of time. So this is kind of like the role in a nutshell. It's not necessarily master scheduling at Pratt. I just kind of did it as a generic, like a big picture. Master scheduling is a high-level plan that outlines the overall production plan of a specified period. It's typically several months to a year. We do 5 years, and sometimes we have a 10-year plan, but it's generally 5 years. 3 years MRP, 2 years is like forecasting. We don't actually work to it, but suppliers want to know what it is. And then we could do another 5 for financial planning for the extra 5 years. We call that aggregate demand. A lot of us call it aggravated demand, but it's aggregate demand. So it provides a general overview of what products and quantities and when to be produced. So the strategic part of it is where we analyze the schedules, whether it should go up or down and why. So we work closely with the shop and sometimes suppliers, in case on capacity, run rates and things like that. We find out how many can you build a month of a widget. If you say you need 150 widgets, you have customers sold for 150 widgets, but you have capacity to build 100. Well, you're gonna have to short 50 customers for that month or a year or wherever it is. So you're gonna have to figure out who it is and how much pain you're gonna give to each one of those. So the other things we're working on for planning is you're looking to increase capacity. So you're gonna wanna look at maybe second shift, third shift, depends on what it is. Sometimes it's raw material you can't get. You're looking at maybe you need another machine. It's a $1.5 million machine. It takes time to build it, the lead time. Those things are being looked at the same time in the strategic. We mostly rely on industrial, but we work very closely with the industrial folks. So we make recommendations on how to best support the customer requirements with some of the things I was just talking about. We also look at inventory levels. It's the end of the year. Every company, I know our company is, we don't want to hold inventory carrying over to the next year because you don't want the inventory costs. You want to have turns. You want to be turning the inventory. You want material coming in and going out right away, just in time. You don't want to carry it and have it on overhead. And I did talk about the capacity plans based on run rates and level loading the schedule. So we also level load the schedule. You don't want to have, what that means is you're not going to have a schedule that's 5 this month, then you're going 20 next month, then you're going back down to 5, and then you're going to 7 or 14. You kind of want to have a level loaded schedule. You could go like 5, 1 month, 6, 7, 8, start ramping up to a level, but you don't want to just have these big spikes in the schedule. So we try to level load it as best we can. Sometimes you can't. And on the tactical side, we're responsible for implementing the changes. So we'll make the recommendations and we'll work with industrial and all the other teams, and then we'll come up with a plan. And then our team comes back to us and we have to implement it into our SAP system, our ERP system, which is SAP. So we make actual adjustments within SAP. We validate the health of the schedule. So after we make the changes, we go and we look at the bill of materials and we go look at the lowest level components and making sure MRP is flowing down to the right quantities. Because there could be something wrong with the bill of material, maybe there's engineering change going on, or different things. We work closely with a lot of the other roles, and we want to give them supply chain a good message, because that goes out to our suppliers in the supplier portal and such. I'll go on to the next page here. This is are you
And I actually have to tell you, you have a minute to wrap up.
okay? Yes, I'll keep going. I'll go fast. Are you considering a master schedule? Considering a master scheduling as a career, advantages, benefits, varied work. Master schedule is an important role at a company. It's the start of all the supply chain activities. Everything's flowed down from there through ERP system. You interact with the value stream like program office, production chief, sales, operations, planning, and assembly floor. Those are all the people I was talking about before. The role can be challenging at times. Accuracy is important because it drives MRP down to the details and raw material. Opportunity to participate in value stream initiatives like schedule strategies, new program induction, process improvements is not a repetitive role. So it's a very high demanding role and high pressure. It's a good role. I enjoy it. Then I went on to this. I listed a few things of how can a student get into supply chain profession. We have, obviously your university, wherever you're at, you can get into, get a degree there. That's a good start. You can go the ASCM route and get that as well. These are all things you can do at the same time. You don't have to wait. It was APICS when I was back in my day, but it's ASCM now. Networking is of course key. Someone else had said that as well. Professional development meetings, things like this are good. Taking some of these courses. What is a good entryway into profession for like my corporation? We have this MMDP program, which you rotate through various companies, departments to get experience. So you can start in quality, you can start at procurement, you can go to materials, shop floor. You could go in different areas. That's a cool thing. For every quarter you switch. This is when you graduate though. This is not while you're in school. We do have summer internships that you can do while you're in school. So you can do it next summer. You'd have to get in early February timeframe, I think, to be able to get to be a spring summer internship. But there's a special global supply chain role. You can rotate between various procurement commodities. We have different commodities that we produce on the engine. And then the operations supply chain leadership development program is really cool at RTX. You rotate through various divisions. So you go through Raytheon, we have missiles and defense, we have Collins Aerospace, Pratt & Whitney, and then of course, RTX corporate. And if anybody needs anything on this, I can provide contacts to get you more information on that, if anybody was interested in it. I'll stop here and leave it to questions at this point. I don't want to, I have another slide, but it just kind of gets into more detail. So this is pretty much
Okay, thank you so much. Especially about the internships. There's a lot of internships here, kids. Who's
I
got a
recommend it.
question? Dan, I see both Dans have their hand up. Do you both have a question? No, I guess yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I didn't realize my hand was up. Yeah, I was just interested in the internship information, and I would just like to get in contact if possible. That was all.
If you could put that in the chat section, that would be wonderful.
Okay. I don't have the person's contact. I have their name, but I don't have their phone number with me handy. I can email it to Ken. Is that okay? Or
yeah, I mean, I could also if you want, I could also put my email or phone number in the chat. If
okay.
But he just wants to be able to reach out to you whenever you have the
Oh, with
information
me.
like
Okay, I can. Yeah, he can reach out to me. I'll give you my email in here. I'll put it in the chat.
that. Okay, wonderful.
Thank you.
And Dan Westhaver.
I basically had the same comment on that.
Okay. Ben. Hello, you got a question, Ben?
Yeah. I really liked the information tonight. Thank you very much. But I also wanted to know if you could take away 3 things that you learned the most, like maybe 3 skills or 3 characteristics that have really helped you succeed so far in your business career. If you could share those with us.
3 things. It was basically a lot of people have said these things already. Keen and others. It basically just. The main thing is try to take in as much information, try to learn, show them you want to work, you want to get on new projects and things like that. My thing was they give you work. You don't want to go in and be an intern and you're just making copies. That's not what we do at Pratt. You actually get real work when you come here. So it's a good learning experience for it. So I highly recommend an internship here. So you always want to continuous improvement. Someone had said this as well. You're going to want to continuously ask for more work, assuming you can do it. Make sure you can complete it. Another thing is come on time to meetings. People don't like it when you're late. Um, what else is there? Just be a good person. Be polite. Don't be rude to anybody. Don't, things like that when you're in there. Networking. So things like that.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. And at that point, I am actually going to ask this to go informal, where we're asking all of our questions to all of our speakers this evening, but that's going to follow in an informal way with no recording after we do the raffle. I know a lot of you have classes, homework follows, and it's getting late at night. So I want to express my appreciation for all of you keeping your cameras on. I have all of your names here in a hat. It is going to be chosen in a moment. First, I want to choose from those who have asked the most questions. That helped me narrow things down a little bit. And so I'm just going to mix those up and choose a name. Are you ready? So this would be the one for asking the most questions. Dan Westhaven. So Dan, if you can put your contact information in the chat, our online person who has the $25 gift certificate for you will send that right out to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Now your names being added to.
I just need his email.
And I'm going to mix those all up. For everyone who has been so attentive this evening. This is probably one of the most attentive sessions I've ever witnessed. So I really appreciate that. I know it's been a long day for all of you. So I'm just going to reach in this bag here and just pick a name, any name. Any one of you who has been with us all evening. Eric. Eric. And that was, let me see if I can get it.
What is it? Kiss it.
Close anyway.
Yes.
So put your information in the chat below so we can get your $25 gift certificate off to you as well.
Just an email?
Yeah, I just need-
Is it the email we're looking for?
Yeah, I need the email address. And what's going to happen is you can get an email that says you get an Amazon gift card from Sandeep Gawar. And your first thought is scam,
right?
Phishing, but it's not. It's real. Sandeep Gawar, Amazon. He's our Apex Awards person on this side of the things, ASCM for Massachusetts Minuteman. Send the, pop the, email address in for, and I have both of them now. So that's good. 2 so far. That's perfect. Thank you.
Cool. Awesome.
Thank you.
So
what was the second name again, by the way? It said Eric.
Eric and Dan Westhaver.
Yeah, what was Eric's last name?
Eric is K-I-S-I-C-H.
K-I-S.
Kiss it. Did I get it right that time?
Yes,
Hey.
you did. Very good.
Perfect. So you will see that. And also our speakers, you'll be getting the same thing, people that helped out as speaking. So keep an eye out to our 5 speakers. Same thing going to
Thank
you
you.
guys as well.
Yes. At this point in our evening, for those of you who have stuck with it, but have to get on to some homework, by all means, the program is over. I'm going to ask Ken to stop recording for this evening. And Ken and I